first step of screaming, you have to get the breathing down. Breathing is very important because you have to support your vocal cords without putting a lot of stress on them, so they don't get all hoarse and slammed together. Because that's how you get polyps and nodes and just hoarse voice. You have to get surgery if you don't support it right using your diaphragm. So to breathe with your diaphragm, you're not breathing in through with your chest like that, because there's no air control basically. If you were to breathe in like that, you have to hold your breath to keep it in. But if you use your diaphragm, which is this muscle underneath your lungs, to breathe, it expands on the side, and you use your stomach to control it. See, right now, I'm holding my diaphragm. I'm holding my lungs filled with air, using my diaphragm to hold it. And it's not hard. I can sit like this, for as long as I need. This is called rib reserve breathing. So, in order to, do singing and screaming, you have to learn how to push your air out using your stomach. This is really important to do. So, a way to do this, learn how to do this, is hiss. Like hiss really hard. Go. You can feel your stomach pushing out the air, and that's your stomach working. You have to be able to do that. So as you're breathing, or when you're screaming, you have your lungs filled with air using your diaphragm, and you use your stomach go like that to push it out without letting all the air out of your lungs. So you're still keeping your diaphragm full. That way you don't run out of air and get winded. Okay, so rib reserve breathing is very important. You don't run out of breath nearly as easy, and it's a really easy way to manage your air. You don't have a bunch of pressure behind your vocal cords ready to just burst out. It's easy to hold it, and it makes it so you can keep a constant pitch without the airflow varying greatly. It doesn't put a lot of stress on your vocal cords because you're not squeezing them to keep the air back, even though your lungs are full. And it controls volume. So when you're screaming, if you want to get loud, a lot of time people just, push more air out. And that's technically what you're doing, but you're using your stomach to push it out instead of just squeezing your lungs. You use your stomach, it pushes it out, and the more air, the louder it gets. And I will talk about that. Okay, so in order to get the overtone in the scream, which is really important because you see a lot of people, screaming, and there's no overtone in their scream, so it doesn't carry. So they have to push really hard just to be heard, and that's not good. That wears and tears on your throat. So what you have to do is learn how to sing with an overtone, and how you do that is there's this method called above the pencil, below the pencil, or in this case a pen. So you put this in your mouth like this, and when you sing the note, you picture it coming up over the pencil, okay? And you can do it below the pencil. So you can sing the same pitch, like for example, E, right? I can feel it up in here because I open my throat and let it reverberate. So that's what the overtone comes from, is when you open in your throat and let the sound reverberate in your throat. So you can sing the same pitch underneath the pencil too. Like E, 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 E. See, it's the same note, but same pitch, but it's coming from different parts of my throat because it's reverberating differently. So when you open your throat so it can resonate, it gives it a bigger, rounder tone. So it carries a lot better. You can hear it, in the mic a lot better. Like say if you're at a show, a lot of time when you notice when people are singing, a lot of time you hear a lot higher note than they're actually singing. That's because it's the overtone that's carrying. Without that, it's really hard to hear, especially a lot of lower like growls and stuff. They're really hard to hear live because there's no overtone in them. So, okay. So the first thing you have to learn is that screaming really isn't the type of screaming that people think it is. There's a common misconception. So really what it is yelling onto pitch. So like you can sing a note E, right? But you can also yell it ah, same pitch, just you're throwing it differently. So what you have to learn to do is there's of the rainbow method, because when you're singing, you basically have it go like a rainbow, like whoa, whoa, and then you do the third time higher, stop at the top, whoa. So you have to yell onto a pitch, and basically that's what the screaming is you're just yelling and then adding a little bit of what's called heat onto it, which I will explain in a moment. So when you're doing that, you can switch in between singing and screaming, and without any damage or anything. It's a very, very subtle change between singing and screaming if you do it this way. Okay, now for the hard part. Learning to actually produce the sound that the scream comes from. This is called vocal fry. It's really hard to get at first, but once you get it, it's really easy. Some people have a lot more trouble with it than others. Girls tend to find it harder to produce the sound, but it is possible. It just takes more practice. So basically what you're doing is, I like to consider a slowed down hum, or like the mix between a hum and a screech. So I don't know if you've seen, like, say, The Grudge, how you hear the person going ah, like that. That's where the sound comes from. You go like so go So what you're doing is, when you talk, your vocal cords kind of go like this, and singing, they kind of go like this, but a lot faster. Vocal fry comes from the vocal cords not moving. What you're doing is stopping them and then letting just the right balance of air, the right balance between the air and the tightening of the vocal cords creates that sound. So if you push too much air through, it can change to just a normal note. That's why you can go from a hum and then kind of slow it down, put a little bit less air through it, and you can change it to vocal fry sound, like another way to conceptualize it is, say, Marge Simpson, like, "Oh, Bart, oh, oh," That's where that sound comes from. It's not, you shouldn't feel tightening in your throat. If you do, stop, you're doing it wrong. It comes from slowing down your vocal cords so they're not moving, and like letting air pass through it, as well as squeezing a higher part of your vocal cords. When you do it, you should feel like a tightening in the top, like the top part of your vocal cords. You don't usually feel. So it is kind of hard to do, but once you get it, it's pretty easy. So you just practice on your own. It doesn't have to be loud. So there's a lot of bands that do inhale screaming. A lot of people consider it a cheating way of screaming, but it's good if you know how to do it right. It's basically the exact same as vocal fry, just in reverse. You're sucking air in instead of blowing it out, and it's still passing through the vocal cords that aren't moving. Now to put it all together, you have to basically add that vocal fry sound, which is also called heat, add that to a yell. This I had the most trouble with, but once you get it, it's a lot easier. It gets really easy and you can do more things with it, but at first it's really hard. So what you have to do is make sure you use rotunda, and use your stomach to push out the air. So as you yell, do that onto a pitch, you try to squeeze that part of your vocal cords, like your false cords, and create that vocal fry sound. So you can try just by starting with the vocal fry, like and then adding more air. And as you add more air, you might have to pinch just a little bit more, but it's still just very, very little, like right? Or you can go from, some people find it easier to go from a yell to a scream. So, whoa! You can switch back and forth, like you'll hear that, like it's almost as if the note's getting stopped, like you hear that crackling. What I'm doing right now is not like an actual scream, it's just showing you how, where the sound comes from. So in order to actually get the scream, you have to get good at that, and then just be able to use your stomach a little bit more to push it out. Like, you know, you can make it louder. See, it comes from the vocal fry. No matter what note you make, you keep it your throat the same. You don't tighten your throat. It's all made by moving your mouth and your throat. So you can watch my throat, like for those. And it's also made with the mouth. A lot of the noise, like the difference in in tone and stuff, comes from the mouth. So like, you can get a lot of different sounds. A lot of experimenting can get you a whole range that you never even thought you can do.